The Powers Project.
Hi, Bryan. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir. I'm glad you joined me this evening, and especially with what you have going on out there in Seattle with the blizzard and everything. You staying warm?
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's not as bad as Texas right now, so at least there's that. The weather decided to mess with Texas. And it's unfortunate. I've got a lot of family and friends down there, and we just had a bit of snow, and we're kind of just stuck at home for an additional reason.
Yeah. Well, you guys are probably a little bit better equipped to handle it than Texas.
Yeah, well, more so than Texas, but not as good as the Midwest, like preemptively iced or, salting the roads, and we don't have as many plows and stuff. But yeah, overall, I learned how to drive in Michigan, so it's never been a challenge out here, but
right.
Just avoiding the other idiots out here tends to be the biggest issue.
I don't care what state you live on in this country. I think all of them have idiots that drive around, because I can say the same thing about them here, and I know I live all around, and they talk the same way about the drivers in their state as well. So I can't wait till there's driverless cars to where these people can't, where they can just sit back and,
right.
text and do everything they want to do and not have to worry about driving. It'll be a safer world.
Right. San Diego, when it rains, people drive. No one knows how to drive, and they're all flying all over the place. If it snows up here, it's same thing. So,
well, that's how it is here in Orlando. If it rains, you would think it was snow, the way people act sometimes. The reason I had you on the show is because for people who don't know, you are a world famous hacker, and I just said, I can imagine you in your fourth grade class, and your teacher has all the kids write, what do you want to grow up when, or what do you want to be when you grow up? And little Bryan says, I want to be a world famous hacker. And the teacher.
Not at any point did that ever cross my mind, even when it started to happen.
Yeah. So I want to get into that, but you have such a fascinating story with amazing parts of it and some unbelievable and not so amazing parts of it. And so I want to talk about it. So the best place to start, I think, is from the childhood. Like, what kind of childhood did you have?
Sure.
And were you born with a computer? Let's get with that. Like, what kind of childhood did you have? And did you have a computer?
I was born in Tokyo, Japan. My parents, I was born in 1982. I got a computer when I was about 2 years old. Well, my dad did. And then I ended up playing games, and the mouse was, a brick, but with my little hand, it's like a textbook.
Right.
And I have a couple pictures of me back then. And I've always been close to the computer, I think. Always found them interesting. I was breaking them by about 8 or 9 years old, and installing stuff I shouldn't have, whether it's new extensions or.
You mean taking them apart? Like you like.
No, but like installing stuff that I found, friends sharing stuff, games, playing a lot of video games. That was most of my childhood. And whatever day in middle school that kids learned how to talk to girls, I must have missed. And I just was on the computer, I think. And then I spent about 14 years before 18, or a little bit after, in Japan, and graduated from high school there, and then joined the Marine Corps after about a year of college not working out. And then I was a linguist, so I joined right after 9/11.
Okay, so how old were you when you joined the Marines?
19. I turned 20 in boot camp.
Okay, and so you were a linguist, and so I want to see I want to find where was that interest in computers where all of a sudden like you become a hacker, like, because I can't.
Oh, that's a ways on.
Okay. Oh, really? So this wasn't something that you did, because like I just saw there was another kid. There was like some 15-year-old kid who hacked into something and got in trouble and got caught. And I was like, so you almost always think the guys like you start early, like you're trying to hack into the school system.
Oh, I was atypical in terms of I guess origin. You get a lot of guys who are in their 40s who've been in the hacking scene since they were kids. And even as far as like guys like Kevin Mitnick, who's probably the most famous hacker ever. And he turned good guy after spending like 5 years in solitary confinement and a bunch of other things. I hit the hacking point after I turned 30. And that's right around the time I got clean and sober and was diagnosed with ADHD. So I was working for a Microsoft vendor that, as a senior engineer in voice over IP and Microsoft Exchange, which is an email product, the hosting service, and was a fairly competent engineer and was always kind of finding little things. And I learned really quickly. But once I got diagnosed and medicated, everything changed. It was like a light switch was flipped on, and all of a sudden I could actually pay attention. It wasn't, if I could describe it in a way, it was like color was added to black and white TV, and suddenly things were interesting rather than I was coping with just day to day, being tired all the time, just not being interested in stuff. And that's when it all kind of kicked off. I had been working in a company in 2009 that was doing data entry on Google Maps and other directories. Turns out they were fraudulent. I ended up quitting a couple years into it. My conscience kind of got the best of me. So once I got diagnosed, I went and checked on it again to see, okay, what does Google Maps look like in terms of spam? What is Yelp? What are these things? What does the ecosystem kind of look like? And it was worse than when I had left it. People had found ways to manipulate search results to trick consumers into calling whoever they wanted. So if you can get the top 10 positioning for carpet cleaner in your city or plumber in your city, bam, you can dominate any region, and you can expand, and you can build 10 or 15 locations for your type of business. And then other people were doing it for lead generation. So they would sell phone calls to other businesses for a price, essentially stealing their own business from them and selling it back to them at a profit. And it was worse. So I started trying to get Google's attention. They didn't really pay attention much until I started building some funny Google Maps listings. Like I renamed a concentration camp in North Korea, the Mormon temple in Salt Lake City, the Westboro Baptist Church became a sex toy emporium, and a few other things. Church of Scientology, mainly South Park jokes.
Right.
Lots of South Park references. And then I changed the Library of Congress to the Zoolander School of Kids Who Can't Read Good. And this is all Google Maps, so it's not official or anything, but.
Is this what you meant by when you said that you broke Google Maps, that you just went in and changed these things?
Sort of. That's when it kicked off into something a little bit more. That was funny, but it didn't have the impact that I was hoping for. So I created a fake location for the Secret Service and the FBI in the exact same place as the original ones in San Francisco and in DC. And then I used some trickery to flag their locations and then forward all the calls I would get to them, and I could be able to record them. And it was conceptually a dangerous idea. I didn't realize it would work really, really well and really fast. And all of a sudden I had 30 or 40 phone calls come in, and that was one of those come to Jesus sort of moments of like, oh no, this worked way too well. What am I going to do? So I called some friends. They told me, friends from the Marines, they were in law enforcement. One guy worked actually at the FBI, and after his initial part of the conversation was like, what? You did what? What? Oh my God, you're an idiot. Okay, all right, here's what you need to do. And so the next day I called the FBI. They hung up on me after about 15 minutes. And so then I went to the Secret Service office and told them what I had done. I get to their office, which is this tiny little lobby about the size of maybe like a garage. And there's a bulletproof glass and like a slot to like put stuff in a door, Secret Service logo on the side. And there's 3 chairs or 4 chairs. And some agents came out to meet me, and they were holding a piece of paper that was from the previous day's news cycle of Zoolander School of Kids Who Can't Read, and then Edward Snowden's secret hiding place, which was on the White House lawn. So apparently they're really touchy about the White House, and as it's their job. So they knew about all this. So they ended up receiving some phone calls, but they actually asked me to leave after another 15 or 20 minutes. So I said, I can prove this to you that I can wiretap or intercept calls. If I can do it in 5 minutes, I'll leave. If I can't, I'll leave. If I can, then you'll listen. So they said, okay. I said, okay, call the DC office of the Secret Service and then hang up when you're done.
All right, wait a second. Let me stop you just for a second. So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
You go in willingly to the Secret Service office and you tell them that
I said I was an idiot, didn't I? I thought I said that.
Yeah. And you basically admitted to wiretapping.
Yeah.
And they were like ready to just let you see you.
Yeah.
They didn't believe you, or
they had a look on their face that was like tinfoil hat.
Like, sure you did, kid.
Right.
Okay, so you said okay.
So then I doubled down on stupid. I was like, no, seriously, I know I will be regretting this later. Call the DC office of the Secret Service. And this is the point where it was kind of like a David Blaine magic trick. So the guy pulls out his phone and types on it a few times, puts it up to his ear, and me and the other two agents are listening to him talk. And he knows the other agent on the other end. Like, they've obviously had a relationship prior to this. He recognizes his voice. After about a minute, he hangs up. And I got a notification on my phone. And it says, you have a new inbound call to Secret Service marketing campaign. Would you like to listen to it for quality assurance purposes? And I push play and then push speaker. And we all now got to listen to his phone call and the other guy. And they immediately lost their sense of humor. And in the middle of the recording, the one agent who had made the phone call, I mean, these guys are all ex-military, ex-cops, now Secret Service. They're trained to have bearing and composure. And the first things out of his mouth was, oh, shit. So then they told me that here's a form with your Miranda rights on it if you understand them. And they took all my stuff and they had me put my hands up against the wall and they patted me down and they said, you're not being arrested. You're not being detained, but we would definitely like you to come and talk. It's like, and my first thought was, so I'm free to go? I'd like to go. No.
So were you pissing your pants at this point? Like, were you going, what the hell did I do? Like, what?
That didn't happen until a little bit later. Right then was like, I told you. Like,
you really didn't catch on, did you? You really were.
It's like, you guys thought I was BSing. Okay, fair enough. Like, now who's an idiot? Oh, that's me. Oh, yeah, damn it. Still me. Yeah.
So what I'm gathering from what you're telling me is that you kind of did this on a whim. Like, you didn't think it would work, or you didn't think it was going to work that good. And then when it did,
I didn't think it was going to work that well. I'm not a planner, so to speak.
So
it was like the smartest and dumbest thing I've ever done at the same time. So hoping that Google would be able to fix the issue with enough pressure, but hoping for this outcome was, so I mean, I got put into this room for 4 hours and I got to demonstrate it over and over and over again and talk to a whole bunch of different people. Eventually the head of the Secret Service on the West Coast, who's in the Seattle office, calls Google and is yelling at him on the phone and like stopping into the little guest suite, which is just a tiny room with a chair, a couple of chairs, a table, a little handcuff bar, no windows, not real welcoming. And he stops in to say, he's like, okay, I'm on the phone with them right now. They're going to be taking stuff down, blah, blah, blah. Like, he was he believed me and was advocating for what I was saying to Google. They ended up having to shut down all new registrations for like 2 months, and they got rid of an entire back-end product called MapMaker, which people could crowdsource edits. So you could make Google Maps better, but people could also make it worse by lying and committing fraud. Whoops.
So, all right. So you're in the Secret Service office, and
Yeah.
4 hours. 4 hours. At any time, did you think, "Ugh, I'm going to prison"? did that cross your mind?
Oh yeah. Once I was sitting there and it was like, can I go? Not yet.
But you're not being detained. But you
I'm
can't.
not being detained, right? And that's the point where my sense of humor was like, can I see your gun? And there's two of them, and he's like, no, I can't. You can't see my gun. I'm like, well, take the bullets out. He's like, no, you could have bullets. I was like, didn't you search me? Wouldn't you know if I had bullets? I'm gonna do all this stuff just to be able to smuggle bullets in to take your gun. If like I could hit you with the chair, that'd do more damage than an empty gun. He's like, he's like, they're just rolling their eyes. I'm just bored. It's like 4 hours.
All right. So the question goes, what possessed you to even think about doing this?
It wasn't whether it definitely didn't fall into the line of questioning of should I do this and what are the ramifications. It was more like, can it be done? And no one had ever gone this far and this rabbit hole of using Google Maps to build a whole bunch of funny things. I think if you went on Bing right now to Bing Maps, you could look up Office of the Lemon Party in New York City, and it would have my phone number on it. And then don't look it up. You can look it up on Google Maps, Bing Maps, but don't go to the website because it's an internet joke of it's a horrible. It's funny to people who've been on the internet for a while, but no one had gone down this road, and it's kind of like being like the Michael Jordan in basketball, taking the entire game to another level. And I'm not comparing myself to him because he was brilliant and dedicated, and I'm an idiot. But the idea is, what could someone do if they figured this stuff out? I could have recorded a congressman's office. I could have gotten to a law firm. There's a million different things you could do with this type of method instead of just trying to steal business from mom and pop companies.
Right.
So what kind of damage could I do? And that's that point where I should have written a white paper and then just walked away. There's a lot of points where I should have just walked away, but this changed my entire life because I didn't have any criminal intent, and no one's that dumb to walk into their office and tell them what you did. There's obviously nothing that I was trying to hide. I wasn't going to be selling it to the Chinese or whatever the hell. It was immediately I tried to run up the white flag or whatever flag to let them know, like, this is a problem, you need to fix this. And I went to the right people and I got lucky.
Did you ever think about not telling them? Like, did it ever occur to you to go, oh, maybe I should just pretend like this didn't happen. Let's not say anything and pretend, and hopefully it'll go.
Half a second, maybe half a second. But that if you got away with shoplifting, maybe they're not going to come after you for like a Hershey bar. But if they find out that you did this and we're just like hiding at home, like waiting, I would never be able to sleep again. That would be miserable.
Yeah, I could see that. I was going to ask you, but if I remember, you just said beforehand that you had gone through an addiction with drugs and alcohol, and I guess you'd gotten clean. So it wasn't the drugs or alcohol that made you do this. You were just bored.
Very astute of you. I wish I could blame it on drugs or alcohol, because there's so many times where you'd be like, oh yeah, I punched a horse. I was drunk out of my mind. Like, whatever the story is, you can blame it on being completely shit-faced.
Right.
This is not one of those times. In my right mind, completely clean and sober. Yeah.
So
all me.
So you going to them and letting them know, save your ass, basically, and
Yeah,
keeping you out of prison, and basically rewarding you for doing this because you um, made them aware of a big hole that in their system that was unsecure.
right. It turned out that I noticed stuff, or have noticed things in the future since that time, that other people don't always notice, and that led to a story on CNN, and finding 20 plus million social security numbers in databases that were all unsecure, and LinkedIn, finding and working with LinkedIn to patch some things, and that's how I met Mark Cuban. So yeah, my whole career started really at that point, and it could have gone very, very badly.
Yeah, very differently.
Yeah, I don't want to like. I mean, I like hanging out with other Marines, but Guantanamo Bay wearing orange is not my ideal beach resort.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be. It would seem like
Orange is terrible on me. It washes me out completely. You can just, yeah, it's terrible. It's a bad color.
not many people look good in orange, especially that kind of orange. What is so you discovered just this one? Are there other threats to our government as far as the security goes with everything that we hear that's going on with the Russians and everything? Is our government agencies, are they secure, or have they since then taken this more seriously?
Have you seen the Solar Winds hack information or some of the news stories about that?
No.
One of the biggest hacks ever was just uncovered using a network monitoring product that a company called SolarWinds, and they were used by the CIA and NSA and all these different government agencies as well as companies. And that network monitoring product got special access to look at everything in all your inventory to be able to monitor it. Well, that was also used as a delivery system for malware and viruses of being able to either remote control or gain access. And the consensus is that the perpetrators are of Russian origin. It might not be. There's almost no way to certify with 100% proof that anybody did anything. But the people who've done the investigations are all pointing at that, at a fringe Russian group, whether it's associated with the government or not. Not really sure. Not really sure who the people behind it. I don't know that we ever will. But separate from that, China and Russia are always trying to hack us, and we are always trying to hack them. Period.
So, in your opinion, do you think, I don't even know if this is possible, but do you think that such systems that we have in place for our security and the security of this nation, that maybe we shouldn't be online where people can hack these systems, like almost like Battlestar Galactica, where they sort of went all back to analog and nothing could be hacked in the mainframe or whatever it was. I know I sound like an idiot because
No. The concept is perfect. It's some things probably shouldn't be online, and they're like your fridge, maybe. But I mean, some of these smart fridges, they can tell you when you're out of milk. And I know I'm always buying milk at the last minute because my kids are like, Dad, we're out of milk. Like, I get every day. It's ridiculous. So I can see the need. But then again, what happens in warfare when we turn off GPS? Like, we control the GPS satellites. So China and Russia wouldn't have access, because right now everyone gets to use our GPS signals. I mean, there's a lot of things hinging on the internet, and it would make life a lot worse not having it. That being said, we could be doing a better job of securing stuff, but with politics getting in the way, it's a very complicated problem. But we could be doing a better job.
So aren't they finding guys like you and saying, "Hey, we want to hire you for your services. We want you to help us secure our systems, make
Yeah.
it better, make it more secure. So do we have
They hire the DoD hires pen testers um, to attack and simulate or simulate attacks to try and find all the possible weak points that someone might have missed. It's better to get a third party, a second set of eyes to look at your work and make sure that you didn't miss anything. Similar to like getting a second opinion at a doctor or a mechanic. You know, you want to make sure that someone didn't miss something small because humans make mistakes. That's just the nature. That's just the nature of things. But yeah, the U.S. government has the best hackers in the world, bar none.
Really?
Easily.
So how did you? All right, so you got into hacking late in the game, but how did you get into it? Like, what made you go, hey, I want to start hacking?
Maybe some confidence based on that, finding something. And then I had some really good friends who were in the hacking community for a long time.
Did they teach you? Because I'm sitting there like,
point me in the right direction. I just learn stuff as I need to solve whatever problem I'm working on. So it's like, I need to build a chair. Okay, what do I need to build a chair? I need a saw, and I need a screwdriver, and I need screws, and I need varnish, and I need this. Okay, well, how do I use varnish? And then go to YouTube, look it up. Find the saw, buy it, look up how to use it. Don't cut off your fingers. That kind of thing. And if someone else has done it, it's repeatable easily. Chances are a lot of people put it on YouTube on how to do something. In the last year, I mean, I've been working on learning how to solve Rubik's Cubes faster. And there's kids who are teaching me basically via YouTube how to solve something faster than I would have thought to do it the other way. There's a million different people trying to be helpful or, get their 15 minutes of fame or whatever you want to call it. But if someone else has done it before, it's duplicatable. It's not impossible. We all learn to tie our shoes at some point. What's to stop you from taking it to the next level?
Understanding, because I could go to the same site you look at and I'd be like, I don't know what the hell he's saying. I don't like it would be like speaking another language. Now,
so I start by finding the words I don't know, writing them down, and looking them up.
Okay.
That's how I learned other languages, or at least pieces of them.
Right.
I know that I don't know shit about this right now, but in a week I could know half of it, and like I could keep trying to, forgetting the fact that I don't have any clue what's going on. You just put that to the side and then just start somewhere.
So you had a genuine curiosity to make.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be curious enough to go search it. I go, that's too much effort. That's a lot more. It's like.
But if you're curious about podcasting, you'll go and figure out, who's the best podcaster and what does he do to make it, like, why? For example, the guy who I've done 2 podcast episodes of Hack This Podcast. I haven't put them on any of the syndication channels. I just put them on YouTube just initially. The guy who does the Hot Wings show, where he gets a celebrity to eat hot wings. I think it's on Netflix now, his YouTube channel. He asks amazing questions. And he's gotten a really famous rappers and musicians, and the amount of people going, man, you really did your homework, or man, you asked really good questions. That sparked it in me to go, okay, what does he do? And start watching from a critical perspective, like, okay, what does this guy do to make his show that much better? He does his homework, he does his research, and he asks good questions. And so that's what makes you curious. You'll watch content about it, you'll live it, you'll practice, and it starts to sort of occupy your space in your head.
So this is
puzzles. Right. I like puzzles.
A definite curiosity for you to learn this then. Like,
yeah.
Because you did mention YouTube, and I will tell you, I really don't believe there's anything you can't find on YouTube. It's whatever you want to learn, it's on there. But I was thinking more in the fact that I go, do you learn hacking? Do you find like, people who teach you these things on the dark web? And I don't know anything about the dark web, so that probably sounded stupid too. but is that a place that people go? Is that where they,
You can. There's a lot of legitimate reasons to learn the same stuff. So you can learn how to do something or how to break into a computer without it being illegal. You just have to know what the legalities are. You have to own both machines. So you can set up virtual machines within your own laptop or your desktop and break in from one to another and learn it in a safe place that doesn't require you to hack into your girlfriend's Facebook account. Or
I was going to ask you about that.
when I was on Dr. Oz right before the pandemic, I had done a news story about USB hacking, and I got no less than 20 phone calls from people who saw the show and wanted me to hack into their wife or husband's phone. And it was about 50-50.
Wow. So
which is illegal, and I can't do it. And asking me to do that and trying to get me to, it's illegal to ask me.
All right. So I know that so I don't want you to answer this. I couldn't help but think, if I was a girl who's thinking about dating him, I'd be scared because I'd be like, he could get into my account and find out everything. I might want to clean up my accounts.
I have a rule when it comes to dating, though. Not that it happens very often, but the idea is I don't want to learn anything out of context. So like I've personally been through a hellish sort of existence, whether it's at my own fault or the universe just wanting to step on me or whatever it is. For some reason, it all ends up working out, but I don't look at anyone's past as like, you've been arrested. All right, so what? Like, I don't need to go get your background report.
Right.
If I find out that there's a need to verify something that didn't sound correct, maybe, but I won't go and I won't even Google search someone. So if they want to add me on Instagram, fine, cool, I'll follow them back. But I'm not going to go and dig, because that takes stuff out of context. And then all of a sudden, you're not asking questions because you know things already, and it changes the whole dynamic. So,
and it starts with mistrust rather than trust. And I'm the kind of I'm like
right.
you. I've never done that, simply because I want to get to know the person, and I want them to tell me about them. And I don't judge people by their past. I judge them by who they are today. So if you're still an ass today, then I go, okay, well, you're an ass still. If you're an ass when you were 20, like most of us were, I'm not going to hold that against you.
Where am I supposed to stop?
Right.
Where's the line on where am I supposed to stop? Like, I could go and get into their phone or switch their SIM card, and then what? Like, it becomes too many things to manage, and then surveilling someone that for any other reason other than just bored, like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. Well, you talk about something that you call ethical hacking. So what is that then?
It's the way people talk about white hat and black hat hackers. White hats are the people who try to make companies or make things more secure so that the bad guys can't get in. So there's what's called red teaming and blue teaming. I know there's a lot of colors, but the red team is the simulated attackers and the blue team is the simulated defenders in an exercise at a company. So small companies wouldn't necessarily have this, but the larger companies do. And so you have practice exercises of, okay, today at 1:00, someone's going to try and hack in, and the blue team has to try and find them, discover it, and shut it down. So white hat hackers operate within a guideline of ethics and legal framework. Black hats don't care. They're the ones doing all the stuff you see on the news.
So those are the people who are breaking our accounts and stealing our accounts. And
it could be as simple as just using your username and password illegally without your permission.
And they have several ways of getting that without your knowledge.
Chances are, if you've reused your username and password on like Hotmail or Yahoo, it got breached a number of years ago, and that same account password is valid at Bank of America, they'll try it. But if you have the two-factor authentication protection, essentially, it prevents that from just automatically working. It actually sends you a notification. So it's one extra step that's really important.
Well, I'll tell you, I have a friend whose his account's been hacked at least 3 or 4 times. At least. I have another client. His account's been hacked several times. Mine has never been hacked. Knock on wood. You know why? Because I don't keep any money in my account. So I was like, if you need to steal my $1.25 that's in there, you have at it.
They send you like free credit monitoring whenever there's a breach, and like if they got access to my credit report at any time in the last 10 years, they'd be calling me to offer me a hug.
Exactly. Can we put some money in your account for you?
I've never seen a single digit credit score. How did you do that?
That's pretty good. I've never seen one either. I don't even think I've ever seen a double digit. So
fingers crossed, I'm over 600 finally. So
there you go. That's when I last looked many years ago. I was over 600. So I was like, oh, good enough for me. I don't use credit anyway. But what can we do as individuals that protect us? Because I know that the banks have certain security measures that they take to protect our accounts. Is there anything that we can do to better secure our accounts and our information, like especially on our computers?
Yeah, using antivirus with something like whitelisting so you can allow certain applications to run and nothing else until you've given it permission. That's probably an intermediate skill level. Having some sort of antivirus protection on there is kind of critical. Making sure that two-factor authentication is on for everything, either through like a mobile app or text message or whatever. Don't use the same passwords for multiple sites. Use a password manager like LastPass or KeePass. They have them integrated with the browser, integrated with iPhone and Android. That way you can have these really complex, hard to remember passwords, but you don't have to remember them. All you have to do is know the main password and Face IDs, and then you're good. Okay. Don't put too much personal information out there on the net. Common sense, like when you're going on vacation. Post pictures after you get back. That way people don't know that your house is empty.
Right.
There's entire books. I would recommend, there's an ex-FBI agent, Michael, I think it's Bazell, like privacy on the internet. Let's see. Extreme Privacy is a good one. What It Takes to Disappear. I'm promoting someone else's book. That's how good it is. Wow. And if you want to be completely invisible online, you can. There's entire websites like White Pages. If you go and search your name on White Pages or Zaba Search or these people search engines, you can find your home address, chances are, or your home phone number. You can also request that they remove that.
Okay, so all right, let me ask you this then, because you said you can get off, you can disappear, because I'll be the most frustrating thing is like I'm on a phone call and I'm talking about wedding rings, and all of a sudden for the next several weeks I get ads for wedding rings, and I may have just mentioned it, like said, oh, you got a nice wedding ring, when you get married.
Do you have an Alexa?
No, I don't.
Do you have a Samsung TV?
Maybe. It's not my TV. It's a big ass TV. It might be a Samsung. I have an Apple.
There's a number of microphones listening to people at any given point. And some devices actually will harvest and gather that information to be able to target better relevant ads. I don't mind the ads because I don't click on them.
Right.
I usually have an ad blocker for one. The funny part is when you buy a toilet seat on Amazon because you broke a toilet, now all the ads are for toilet seats, like you're some collector. Like I do not need 50 toilet seats. This is not a thing.
Right.
But Amazon listens, Facebook listens. Facebook has known to listen even when you don't have the app open. So there's a number of different channels that can happen. It's hard to pinpoint exactly which one did it, but someone did.
Right. So is this something that, because I have an iPhone, is that something that iPhone does? That
could be. If you have Siri on or any sort of voice recognition, your mic is always listening. because it has to know to listen to hear you say that initial command.
Right.
So it's gathering information, whatever you're doing. That being said, there's a lot of people doing the same thing. So no one really cares. Like the NSA doesn't give a shit if you're selling drugs. They don't care. They want to know about terrorism. They're trying to find and coordinate and stop major attacks or prevent nuclear bombs being shipped over. Anything you've ever seen on like 24. Like, remember that show?
I never watched it, but I know the show.
Have you ever had anxiety? It's like that forever. That show is just constant anxiety. And Kiefer Sutherland is just getting shit on the entire, all seasons. And it's awful. But the worst possible scenarios, that's what they focus on. So unless you're Edward Snowden, you don't have to worry about all the state level stuff. But if you have a concern for privacy, that the Extreme Privacy book, it's a textbook essentially, will tell you how to buy a house and put it in a trust. You can register your car to a real estate trust, so all your registration doesn't connect to you. You can get a phone through, I think, Mint Mobile. You can buy SIM cards from Best Buy. You can buy an iPhone with cash and have an iCloud account that doesn't tie to you. You can buy prepaid cards. There's a lot of extreme measures you can take to avoid being tied to your digital life. There's burner phone numbers with MySudo, MySudo app for like burner phone numbers and burner emails.
And who's
tons of different options.
Who's the author of this book?
Michael, I think it's Bazzell. Yeah.
Okay. Now you have a book coming out too, right?
I had one that came out on it's on Amazon, and then I have another one I'm working on right now. It should be done by the end of the year.
What's the one that you have out on Amazon right now?
It's called Cyber Fraud. Basically, the story of how I hacked Google Maps and why. And then it was the subject of my TED Talk, which was wiretapping the Secret Service can be easy and fun.
And how was your experience with TED Talk?
It was my first public speaking experience, which now has turned into a fairly decent public speaking career. It was good. I would recommend it if somebody to apply and try to get on there. It's a really, it's a good credential to have.
Right. I don't know how to do this delicately because we haven't talked about. Okay. You had an incident with your daughter.
Yeah.
Where she was kidnapped.
Maybe the wrong terminology. So she was a heroin user at about 14 or 13. And by the time she was 16, she was my foster kid. So my stepdaughter became my foster kid after a number of years in the divorce. The details are kind of murky. She ended up, I think, being sold by her boyfriend or exploited in that way. And was trafficked. And she was trafficked for about a month.
You know, you hear about this kind of stuff and you go, is this even real? And this is something that happened to you.
Yeah.
And because of your skills in hacking, you were able to find this guy, right?
Yeah, I found out where she was. Took about a month. She was on Backpage for a number of weeks. That's when Backpage actually ended up getting shut down, which was kind of bittersweet at that point. In a house in North Seattle in a suburb. I mean, not far off the beaten path, but in a really crappy area of the city where there is a lot of prostitution, unfortunately. So she's 16 years old and was in the house with a guy older than her grandfather.
Holy shit.
And ended up leading the police and calling the FBI in the middle of the night. The police showed up, didn't get a warrant, but they did a health and welfare inspection, which allows them to find her and not prosecute anything they find. And they found her. She was taken to the ER and then went to rehab for 18 months.
How's she doing today?
21-year-old pain in the ass. She's doing better. She's doing better. Working on her GED, and pandemic isn't exactly helpful for anyone in any walk of life. So, but yeah, she's alive.
Is this when you first started encountering your issues with your drug and alcohol addiction? Was during this time?
No. I was already clean and sober by then.
Oh, okay.
I initially got clean and sober 2013 in March, and this was 4 years ago. So it's 2016.
So what got you clean? What made you decide that you've had enough and you were going to get your life on track?
Couldn't stop doing drugs. As a coping mechanism, I was in a bad marriage with the wrong person. She would say the same and she would be right. So didn't want to lose my kids or a kid. We split right as our second was being conceived. So that was poor timing. Losing family, realizing I couldn't hold jobs, couldn't stop when I wanted to. There's a lot of, if anyone's ever thinking about like addiction or like, am I an alcoholic or am I a drug addict? There's tons of websites you can go and say, okay, what are the symptoms of being an alcoholic? Like, does it affect your life? Does my drinking or my drug use affect my life negatively? Does it affect my personal relationships? Does it affect my employment? Do I want to stop, but I can't? Do I drink or use every day? Do I have to use or drink every day? And I was pretty much all of the different things. So for me, alcohol immediately turned into 2 or 3 beers. Two beers, I'd be okay. Three is dangerous. And if I'm having a good time, I'm a social, really happy, kind of golden retriever type person who's just happy to see everybody. If I have 3 and I'm not paying attention and I have 4, something flips and I want cocaine. And that starts the end of everything. Like, I'll do drugs until I've run out of stuff to sell. Something flips, all my priorities change, and I don't want to be the guy, selling his kidney
right
on the black market.
So did you have to hit rock bottom, or did you?
Yeah.
What was your rock bottom?
Losing kids or losing kid. My ex and I both used at the same time, but yeah, having that all fall apart, not being able, like being homeless. And some people don't hit homeless and that's rock bottom for them. That's
right.
Sometimes they'll just keep using, and then you need the drugs to cope with the shit you're in. Luckily for me, it wasn't ever IV heroin usage, which is a particularly devastating. But for me, it was cocaine, meth, pills, pretty much everything else.
Was meth hard for you to get off of, or?
It wasn't as bad. 3 or 4 days of sleep helps, and then you just have no energy, no motivation. Everything kind of sucks. And the problem with that is, once you've been using it for a while, it doesn't ever get you high again. Like, you don't ever hit that. And when you first use drugs, you'll never be there again. You have to use just to feel normal, just to get out of bed. And that sucks. Being clean and sober is so much better. You stop exercising, you stop taking care of yourself, you don't eat well, you're not reliable. I couldn't show up for anything. And now I'm able to raise kids and work. And I built a wall at the beginning of the pandemic. I built my wall. I accomplished that.
Yes, you got your wall done. Someone else kind of failed on their wall.
No names.
Exactly. So you're doing quite well for yourself. You turned your life around. You did a TED Talk. You wrote a book. You're a public speaker or a corporate speaker. You go to different corporate events that you speak in front of people for about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And so like you said, you're a world famous hacker as far as breaking into the Secret Service and the
I'll
FBI.
always have that. I don't need to get my credentials from for famous hacker, and I don't need to do any other stupid stunts.
Well, that was going to be my question. It's like, have you had a desire to test anyone else out? Like, see,
Not so much. Like I won't even jaywalk
really.
because they made it very clear. Like, don't do anything like that again. Like, gotcha. Like, loud and clear, boys.
Exactly. Message received.
I don't. Yeah, I have too much to lose, and it's good being. I wouldn't say boring because no one in my family or life would consider me boring, but having more of a stable. I have a full-time job. I also have the speaking stuff and consulting, but more useful this way. I don't need to pull any stunts to be famous. Famous is garbage. Right. It's a novelty, and if I can use it for good, awesome. Connecting people, helping people find jobs, that's outstanding. It allows me to meet people like you, go on podcasts, do stuff, might be able to help somebody. That means something to me. But being famous for the sake of famous is just silly.
I know this is going to sound like one of those typical questions, but I think it's important to you. If you could talk to yourself, let's say 15 years ago, what would you say to yourself what would you do differently? I know that everything's kind of turned out really well for you, but is there something that obviously that you wish you could have maybe not had to go through, or do you?
Yeah. So it would probably be learn how to ask for help and not to be self-reliant. The Marine Corps is great for a lot of reasons, but it doesn't teach you how to handle emotions well. It doesn't teach you as a father how to deal with children's emotions very well. And I would learn, like, after I found my daughter, I didn't know how to ask for help. So it started, coping mechanisms started popping up, like going and gambling and just one night stands, and not drugs and alcohol, but other coping mechanisms that all have 12-step programs associated with them. So if something has a 12-step program associated with it, like gambling or overeating, you probably don't want to do it. Maybe in moderation if you can handle it, but no one's saying go recreationally try cocaine. Like, it's playing Russian roulette with your life. Same goes for gambling and overeating. I needed to learn how to ask for help and deal with stuff, so I ended up getting a therapist. But it didn't all happen right away. It took a suicide attempt and a week at the VA psych ward and finding a church for me to be able to turn everything around at that point.
Was this suicide attempt after you'd already beaten alcohol and drugs?
Yeah.
Wow.
I couldn't make the nightmares go away. Like, I just couldn't function. I wasn't able to sleep on a schedule. I wasn't able to hold a job. I couldn't feed my kids. It was just nightmares constantly. And every time I fell asleep, it was the same ones. And just exhausted. 6 months later, I had nothing left and didn't want to face the fact that I had to put my kids into foster care. I had no safety net for them. They couldn't go to their mom. She was homeless. So they had to go to foster care, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And so life starts off with challenges, and you're 2 years old and your challenges, I can't put my shoe on. And then 10, and like I left my backpack at home. Crap. 18, I got a girl pregnant. That's more and more severe. But as you get older, the problems get bigger and they hurt more. And if you haven't figured out a way to deal with them appropriately, instead of just pushing emotions back into the closet, there's a reason men commit suicide at a much higher rate than women. And under 50, it's like the number one killer. Because suicide isn't life is boring. It's life is too painful to keep on living. This hurts too much. So at least for me. And not letting it get there, but I didn't know the importance of exercise on a daily basis and a good diet and how to sleep properly. But if you have nightmares, how do you make them go away? Who do you ask? How do you develop an ability to deal with emotions or coping mechanisms that are actually healthy? What are healthy outlets? I had to learn all of that. And I did, which has helped tremendously throughout the pandemic, especially when most of our coping mechanisms are gone. Social activities are gone. We're all stuck in the same house. That's probably what I would tell my 15-year-plus old self.
All right. So it's important because that was some really good advice. So then the next thing we need to know is, where did you go? How do people, if you have some kid out there who's experiencing what you've experienced, where did they go?
Good question.
You need help. So where did they go for this help?
So I went to, if someone is feeling suicidal now, like it is an acute, urgent thing, there's suicide hotlines. There's tons of people that will talk about it. There's a subreddit, I think Suicide Watch there's people care. People really do. I know that I would. If someone reached out to me, I would do whatever I could to get them help. After the initial urgency is subsided, it's something that needs to be taken care of. So go to psychologytoday.com. You can find a therapist, counselor, search based on your zip code, your city, whatever. Find someone who's a Christian, an atheist, a Buddhist, deals with children, ADHD, bipolar, personality disorders, whatever. All the different criteria is there, and you can find someone that fits your need. And there's online therapy now. So there's plenty of these online, and it's better than nothing, to be honest. Talking to somebody is therapeutic. If you have a problem with alcohol or drugs, there are 12-step programs associated with them that I would recommend alphabetically. Some of them are near the front of the phone book. There's tons of different meetings and people who are willing to help. And then you're not alone. Chances are, unless you're from Mars, there's someone like you who's gone through something similar.
Right. And I think that's a great message. I mean, that's important. What you just said is that people need to understand they're not the only ones going through this, that there are plenty of people out there like them who deal with this on a daily basis as well, and that they're not alone.
Right. Like you could try to make yourself terminally unique, and unique in a way that's, well, no one's going to understand. No one has my name and lives in this address. And you can put a bunch of criteria in there and be like no one understands what it's like to be a transgender mailman who lives in Topeka, Kansas. And okay. Stop making yourself impossible to compare to.
Right.
I have a transgender sister. I have a regular sister. She's tiny. The other one's big. I've had a unique perspective on life. I grew up in Japan. No one's like me. There's none. But a lot of people share aspects of my story and have felt the same way. They just didn't have the exact same physical circumstances. But I understand what pain is. I understand what regret is. I understand how to feel better. And I don't want to kill myself today. I know what it's like to not want to drink or use drugs on a daily basis. And that alone is a miracle. I was a homeless meth addict, for Pete's sake.
Yeah. And I I hate saying this because it sounds kind of cliche, but you're proof that it does get better. I mean, you're living proof of that. You look at
yes, without appropriating, it does get better from the gay community. Yes, it can. Because I believe that was one of the slogans. It gets better.
It was. It gets better, and
gotta watch out and can't say me too. Well, shit. Ooh,
I can say whatever I want about it. So
are you?
Yeah. No one ever knows unless I tell them. And I'm okay with, but I'd always tell people, look, it's not so much that it gets better, but I say you get better and you get stronger, and it makes everything better when you get better. And that's what, and honestly, listening to your story, That's what I take away from you, is that you got better. You know,
Yeah. I wasn't, a majority of my life, I wasn't putting energy back into the universe that was equal to the amount I was taking.
yeah.
And on a pretty consistent day-to-day basis, I'm able to help more people than I'm asking for help or needing help. So that having the inequity from earlier in life to being able to give back and being able to try and help in any way, shape, or form. Why did I get famous? If there is a bigger purpose to all this, what was it for? It wasn't for personal glory, because that's a temporary thing and you can throw that away in a second. Maybe it was to reach a bigger audience or a different audience in a different way. Maybe it was to become famous hacker to then transition or talk about suicide awareness and other aspects of mental health that I needed to have experience speaking prior to that. Who knows? I don't know what the launching point is or what the stepping stones are or what it's all going to pan out to be, but it's been an interesting ride.
I'll tell you this: I didn't expect this podcast to take this turn, but I'm glad it did, because I think some of the most important stuff that you said tonight is about this, and you make a really great point about giving back more than you take. I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have in this country right now, and why there's so much anger and so much hurt and so much hatred, is because everybody's become so self-centered. They only think
Yeah.
about themselves, that they keep trying to take, and they don't want to give anything back, and that's why they're in the position they are. And the fact that you said that, that basically things change for you when you could start giving back instead of just taking, it does it.
My life gets better immediately when I'm thinking about how I can help other people than when I'm trying to do something for myself. Almost immediately. Like, it's within seconds. If I can just focus on what do I need to do for my kids, or what can I do to help this other person, I need to sit down and make a job recommendation. My life is better immediately than if I'm just sitting there trying to find out what I like to do or what I can do to make myself feel better.
I'm going to tell you, for being a world famous hacker, that bit of advice right there and information that you just gave is the most powerful thing that you said tonight, and just amazing. I'm glad that we went down this path, because this was really important, and I hope people
It,
what you say.
it's hard. I guess it's hard for me to not talk about this stuff when everything led up to it, because what good would I be? Like, I wasn't able to dig myself out. I had a lot of people help, whether it was taking me to 12-step meetings or taking me to the psych ward or picking me up or helping me put my life back together. I didn't do it alone. It took a lot of people with a lot of extra time. One of them is a millionaire who does not need to live anywhere. He could live on an island on a boat but he doesn't. He spends his time mentoring guys and helping guys through 12-step programs. That's what he does. That's how he chooses to live his life. He's got a fucking movie theater in the basement of his house. And he's one of the most amazing dudes I've ever known. And these people live this life that's completely different from where we all ended up coming from. And that's who I try to follow. So a lot of people don't talk about this stuff because, I mean, how many different subjects were considered taboo to talk about from a branding perspective? Like, famous hacker, world famous hacker, Wiretapped, Secret Service, rescued his own daughter from trap. That's a fucking movie. That's a movie.
Exactly. And
How many people would just stop there because that's cool enough? How many people would recommend their client add, oh, but I was also a homeless meth addict. I also had problems with cocaine, or talk about it in detail, or share all of that stuff. That came from Brené Brown. If you know who she is, she's a vulnerability and shame researcher. She gave a TED talk, at least one, and she's got shows on Netflix. She's got a podcast, wrote a bunch of books about how vulnerability isn't a weakness. Changed my life. like on top of everything else, my therapist recommended watching that. And I did. It was like, holy crap, like this lady's being honest about her personal stuff. And she's also a recovering addict in 20 some years, had all these amazing insights. And to me, I'm on borrowed time now. So why would I care? Like the only struggles at this point are like when people who haven't heard, who try to look at your past, like especially in dating, they're like, wow, I heard your, so they try to understand your story, and you say, well, I did this and this and this, and they're like, well, I don't know if I can ever be with somebody who's done that many drugs, and be like, all right, cool, bye, like have a good one, good luck finding anybody who's not got a past. Other people are just going to lie about it. I don't do any of it, but whatever, cool. I'm not going to put myself back up on a cross and beat myself up for stuff I've already processed and come to terms with.
Exactly.
And the only way that it stays a negative in my life is if I don't share this stuff with people. I've got therapy bingo. I've done all the things. I've had all the things happen. I've been a foster parent. I've been a step parent. I've been divorced. I've been married. I've been shot. I've done drugs. I've done all the things. I've fallen in all the holes, whether I should have avoided them or could have avoided them. Some of them my own choice. Some of them just happened to you. Now, how to get out of it, that I know. And I'd rather have all this stuff happen so I can guide my kids through life, rather than the parents who are like, abstinence is the only way to learn about, you can't learn about sex. We can't talk to you about sex. I had to have the sex talk with my 12-year-old and tell her what hell she's in for when she has her period. And like, sorry, I don't have one of those. I don't know. I have no idea how any of that stuff works. I bought all of it for you, every version, every possible, and it's all in the kit. It's all in the sink for when you need it, under the sink. Good luck.
I think you would do yourself, your story, a disservice if you didn't add those vulnerable times in there, because I think what it does, it just shows how amazing your story really is, how amazing you are, what you persevered through in order to get where you are today. And I think that's a great message. And it would have made the story less amazing, if you just had the action packed parts of it and didn't talk about the vulnerable parts, because the vulnerable parts are what made you who you are today. And I think people should have a healthy outlook about those vulnerable parts like you do, and accept them and be okay with them.
I appreciate that. I think there's definitely, the Marine Corps definitely has this sort of, the way that they sort their priorities is actually mission accomplishment and then troop welfare. And I get it from like a fighting war perspective. But I've gotten closer with a lot of people I was in the military with after the fact, who are now going through similar or whatever life things that are happening, and need someone to give a shit. And no one does. Or people don't know that they should, or like how to handle challenging situations. Be like, all right, we got this. Like, let's, talking is important. It helps you deal with your emotions. How you develop emotional intelligence is by talking about the things that are happening to you, rather than going and pretending they didn't happen. It has a physiological benefit from like stress, and you can live a life that's better. Therefore, from like an evangelist perspective, it makes sense to be excited about it, and because it's meaningful to me, and it continues to allow me to be alive and keep, I can be more aware of with the canary in the mine thing, when they went into the pyramids and they're like, all right, is this going to kill us? Let's hold up a bird. That for me is when I stop caring about my kids. If I'm too tired, if I'm too run down, depression, I haven't been doing enough, or not treating it enough, or not enough self-care. That's the measure for me. It's like, okay, I don't care about anything. Something's wrong, something's off. So paying attention, knowing yourself, Some people can smoke weed every day, and that's a anxious or anxiety relieving thing. I can't, unfortunately. It would be convenient. It's legal in this state, but I would love to be able to have a glass of wine and sit on a porch like a normal person. Um, Not going to happen. So, knowing your own boundaries, knowing those types of things, like learning as much as you can about yourself, and there's no shame in it. The same way that a lot of people talk about like clicking on links as a security precaution for hackers. Like, oh, you can't click on links. Well, how am I going to send anything to anybody? If you know I'm going to send you a link, you can click on it. Like if we talk on the phone, I'll be like, I'll send you this podcast invite questionnaire and I'll go fill it out. Fine. People can spoof emails to pretend that they are your friend and it's unsolicited. So then, you call them especially if it's financial transaction related, or if anything pops up and it has you enter in your credentials immediately after clicking on a link, that should be a red flag. However, even the experts, we click on links we shouldn't sometimes. So now take the shame out of it. It doesn't work as a motivational tool. It makes for hostile work environments. It makes for a hostile parenting strategy. It doesn't work. People still do it. They don't know any better. So we can all stop it. We all don't have to feel bad. We can take, it's like a math equation. You can just cross it off on both sides of the equation. Everybody gets a pass. We're all stupid. We're all smart. Exactly. And let's stop using this guilting thing as a fucking tool. It doesn't work.
Since you came back to that, I forgot I did have a question that was really important to me that I wanted to ask. Do VPNs work?
Yes. However, Proton VPN's a good one. Proton Mail is a good mail provider. A bunch of the VPN providers some of the commercially available ones had their private keys leaked. They were stolen, which means someone could break in if they knew what they were doing. Not everyone on the streets is going to know how to do that. It would take me a bit of work to figure it out. I don't have any desire to figure it out. I don't want to know what you're hiding on your VPN, or if you're even hiding anything using a VPN. VPNs can help regular people. It doesn't mean that you're up to no good. Using one, especially if you travel, makes a lot of sense. Protecting what you're browsing for, protecting what your transactions and everything else. If you use a typical banking website or something like that, your traffic's going to be encrypted already because of the HTTPS. If you've got the lock symbol is what people are being taught to look for malicious websites. Malicious websites can get the lock symbol. It doesn't mean that site is awesome. It just means they have a certificate that's been registered and they're protected. So your traffic to them is secure. It doesn't mean that they're not assholes.
I don't know that, especially these past two generations, the youngest generations, it doesn't seem to me that privacy is a big deal for them. I don't think they care. Is that your experience? Because I know in my generation, everything was like hush hush.
I got asked to volunteer from a high school classmate who's a police officer in, I want to say, the Gold Coast of Australia. And he's asking if I would volunteer. And I said, yes, I'm waiting for the next step to talk to students about this type of thing, because he's getting kids who are like 10 and 11 years old sharing naked pictures of each other who have no business. It's like, that doesn't, and they have permanent records because of it. And you can be on the child sex offender registry for sending and creating child pornography. And obviously that's not what they were trying to do. There's a difference between a 35 or a 40-year-old person having photos of a 10-year-old naked than it is a 10-year-old sending another 10-year-old something naked because they were being silly and trying to grow up too fast. But if you hit puberty at 10, the hormones are there.
Right.
So kids it's at that point, it's on parents to be doing the right thing and trying to teach their kids all the dangers that are out there. But there's bigger dangers than there were 2,000 years ago. It used to be a very short list. Don't go outside at night, bears, one. Don't put your hand in the fire, ow. Just watch out for the snake. Like it was just basically a list of animals.
Right.
It was the list of dangers. Now it's, okay, any guy who's showing you panel vans, danger one. Too good to be true. Like he's offering you some crazy amount of money. You just got to fly to them. And like, there's all sorts of different ways that people are scamming people. It's hard to index. It's hard to come up with a good list. And you don't want to expose people to, or kids to stuff they're not ready for. But at what cost? And if you didn't say something, if Liam Neeson had told his daughter more about the dangers of what could have happened in fictional Paris of that, then maybe she wouldn't have gotten, but maybe she would have. She looks kind of stupid.
It's her age. What I think about is like in the next 10 to 15 years, these people are going to be old enough to be running for office. And I think all your stuff has been out on the internet forever now. And so are we ever going to have politicians who hold anyone, like, are they ever going to call each other out about, oh, well, so-and-so did this, because they're going to go, yeah, well, you did this, because it's all out there. And they don't, it's as if they don't care what's out there. So we might actually have politicians in 15 years. They're like, yeah, we know everything about them because they weren't hiding anything, which that could be nice, I guess.
I could run for office at this point.
Well, yeah, you could, because all your stuff.
What are you going to dig up that I haven't already put on a podcast or said in a book?
Right, exactly.
And it's like we want people to not be the person that they're, pretending that they weren't. Like I used to like drinking beers and hanging out with my friends and like whatever the story is, but yeah, like we're going to have kids who've got Snapchat stories and Instagram posts, and you'll have to delete stuff and sanitize. And it's going to be interesting to see, to be fair. I have no idea how it's going to pan out or play out, and I have no interest in running for office, but I might do it as a joke. I thought about running as a Democrat after changing my name to Donald J. Trump.
That would be hilarious.
And then just to have the confusion factor of Donald J. Trump running as both parties and then having people go, what the hell? So they'll just pick the one closest to the top, which is Democrat because of alphabetical order. And then I could be president.
Is Eric Cartman your spirit animal?
He's more malicious. Definitely. Like he's definitely got that evil spirit that I don't have any malicious side of me. I definitely have contempt for hypocrisy and double standards, and like I'd rather shit on the whole thing than, because it doesn't work right now and it's so silly. Like all Democrats are pedophiles and they're covering up this sex trafficking ring. Be like, no, that's not true. They're coming for our guns. Well, you're gonna have to take mine first.
Right.
Like if I voted Democrat, like, that would make their argument wouldn't add up. I want to own more guns. Like I want to own so many that I can just go, I have more guns than you, and then watch their head just crumble.
Right. Well, and you hit on it. The whole system doesn't work because both sides are corrupt. And it's funny, and I don't know how many times I've said this on different episodes, but you have the left who are pointing their finger at the right and telling them everything they're doing wrong. You have the right pointing at the finger at the left and telling them everything they're doing wrong. But magically, neither one of them can see what's wrong with their own side.
It's like a very cliche relationship where when you're battling with a spouse, and it's always and never are very bad words to use because it's almost never the case. If you exaggerate at all, it's lying, even for effect.
Yep.
And my finding religion for me is very similar to finding a 12-step program. So it might not be right for you, but I'm not telling you to be me. Don't be me. Please don't. The world does not need another one under any circumstance. There's, if I had a twin, me finding Christianity in the form that I did, growing up in a Christian missionary home and being around Christian churches, no one ever told me to have a relationship with God privately. It was always this trying to, I saw this podcast actually talking about it. Everyone wants to look like they're holy. Mm-hmm. So the khakis and the dress up, and we're all sinners. We're all of us making, we've all made mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. None of us can earn salvation based on our merit or actions, no matter how many of them there are. You can't. It's the whole point. The point is we're on borrowed time, essentially. It's grace. We're being extended this. And so AA and these other 12-step type programs talk about attraction rather than promotion. So if you're an alcoholic or you think you're an alcoholic, we'll let you diagnose yourself and you can be part of the group if you want, but we're not telling you to join. We're not calling you an alcoholic. You have to do that for yourself. Kind of the same sort of way. Like the only way that the Bible is supposed to be used, in my opinion, is if the action step is loving another person. If it's not, don't do it. So like, don't use it to judge other people. Don't use it to like justify where hurricanes come from, because
that is, see, and you hit on when you said that you have a difficult time with hypocrisy, and I'm thinking, well, Christianity is one of the most hypocritical institutions.
I completely agree in the way that the people have chosen to follow it and practice it, especially publicly. The guy one of the pastors who runs a mega church had his home destroyed in a flood after saying floods is how God punishes gay people. Like, God loves gay people just as much as straight people. He doesn't like either one, either more or less. That's the magic. He doesn't give a crap about that.
And that's why when you get this double speak and you see the hypocrisy, it's like, so people on the coastal states, California, Florida, Washington, New York, we get hit with something. Well, I remember seeing in downtown Orlando, they were for the first time they were putting up rainbow flags during the month of June because it was gay. It was a gay month or whatever they call it,
refracted light month.
Exactly. And so when we got hit with a hurricane, like in, I don't know, it was August or September or something, they're saying that's because they flew the gay flag. But when there was flooding or a blizzard that hit the Midwest states, oh, that's God testing his people. It's like, oh, so he's testing his people, but he's condemning us, and he's exactly. And it's like, that kind of nonsense doesn't fly anymore, especially with these younger generations, because they question everything, which I think is great. They don't just buy into the BS, and because they're people who think, and I'm glad that they think. And you're right, these people that you were talking about, they've railroaded religion, Christianity in particular, and made it something I don't think it was ever meant to be.
I completely agree. Jesus as a person was captivating, and he didn't seek power. He could have tried to run for office. He could have been the most powerful. He could have taken over the Roman Empire, through whatever election process they had. So why are we trying to do that as Christians, is be these political leaders to run the country like a theocracy, which ultimately makes people hate Christianity because we're people, we make mistakes. If you go on the air preaching something and you don't have the proper alignment, which no one seems to, you're going to make a mistake or find some reason to be hypocritical, or you're going to get called out by your base to be like, why are there hurricanes? Oh, gay people. Like, you say some stupid, ignorant bullshit, and it will turn people away from Christianity, and that's your fault.
Right.
It's not that, oh, they're difficult to convert. It's that you made an environment that's extremely hostile because you weren't doing the things you were supposed to do, like loving your kids, loving people, being generous. There's a whole bunch of things. The meek will inherit the earth, not the most powerful, not the ones running the biggest churches who have the biggest houses. It says nothing. The only thing it really talks about the rich people is how hard it is to get into heaven if you're rich, because you don't need God. I needed God in a way because I was so broken, spiritually, mentally, physically. If I had had all the money in the world, I probably wouldn't have needed it, and I probably would have screwed myself. If I had saved all the money I bought drugs with Bitcoin when it was at $1, I'd have over $1 billion now.
Yeah. And then I would
$1 billion with a B. So much money. But I would have killed myself with that amount of money, right, because I hadn't learned enough about, like, don't do that. Like, nah, I'm going to do it again.
You know, who would have thought at the beginning of this podcast, talking to a world famous hacker, that we'd be talking about life lessons and religion and suicide. And see, this is what I love about podcasts, is that you don't know where it's going to go. And it's genuine. It's organic. It's not, it's like I said, at the beginning of the show, I had no idea where this is going to go. I certainly didn't think it would take this path, but I am extremely happy.
Welcome to my life, man. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen next. Are you kidding me?
So what is next for you? I mean, you know, I mean, I know that
I'll be the first person hit by a meteor. Like, that's going to be, like, whatever my claim to fame is next. I don't want to know. It's going to hurt. Working on a book. I'm working on social media stuff. Like, I kind of want to put together a list of terms, like router and firewall, and like talk about them in a simple way, because one of the things that I've been consistently getting is that I talk about things in a way that people can understand. Even if I'm talking quickly, it tends to be engaging enough that even during a podcast, Zoom, whatever, I can keep people's attention for longer than a few minutes. And that's something I've always been good at. I've always been able to talk. With practice, I've been able to direct some of the humor towards myself and not make fun of other people. It's a game, and once you get kind of good at it, then you can kind of travel anywhere, which is why I got to go to Dubai in December and meet one of my heroes, John Cleese, and I got to work with a bunch of amazing people, and life's interesting. The pandemic has slowed stuff down, and I was in a car wreck like 2 weeks ago and had neck damage and been working on recuperating and stuff, but overall, trying to work on stuff that I think will help people, that'll allow me to raise my kids and travel more and continue to find ways to give back and write books, and working with a ghostwriter, potentially not a ghostwriter, he actually might just be a co-author, to write my story in a way that actually people want to read it, because I might be a good talker, but I'm not good at writing and sitting down for long periods of time. So we'll see. Hopefully writing a memoir type book, maybe about resilience. I don't know what the message is yet.
I could see this becoming a movie. Seriously, I could see your life being a movie. It would be a very, very. It would be one of those stories you're like, that can't happen, because there's.
I've heard this before. Yes, it should be. I think it should be a movie. I'm not sure which parts, because it's hard to put into one movie episode type thing. Like, how would you do that? Like, where would you start? We've done an hour and 20 minutes, and we've surface skimmed a lot of it, but like a lot of it can get drawn out.
You need Netflix. Netflix has those one seasons with like different episodes. That's what you need, where you can tell your story in more than just one movie, but like in a series where you have episodes in it.
Things are still happening too. That's the thing. Like, it's
that meteor hasn't hit yet.
Yeah, like the meteor will hit it'll hurt, but then it'll be filled with gold. Like it'll be that kind of like,
Right.
there's always these weird, like how many once in a lifetime things happen to one person?
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm optimistic based on my previous what I've gone through. Let's put it that way.
Very good. We'll see. That's a great, I mean, to be able to go through everything that you went through and still be optimistic and still look at life, as it's a positive thing. I admire you for that. I think it's a great message, and I think it's one that other people will resonate with. That they're going to go, hey, that could be me. Instead of, I often say to people, find reasons why you can do things instead of excuses for why you can't do them. And you're the epitome of that. If you always found reasons why your life could be better, and we all have our stumbling blocks. We all mess up. Like you said, we're all smart and we're all stupid. We've all been both of those. So it's just about becoming a better person each day.
Finding humor helps a lot. Like, for example, I have a bunch of file cabinets. So I've got a top secret drawer, and everything's labeled. Let's see if you can.
I can't read it, but that's because
it says dick pics, and then it has photos of Vice President Dick Cheney. And no one gets to see this file cabinet. Maybe when I die, they'll go through it. But the idea is like just having stupid little Easter eggs and jokes throughout life.
They'll enjoy that, and that's the thing, and they'll have fun, and your memory will be one that's of joy instead of sorrow. So that's excellent.
Or like when you're texting with somebody, I'll send a picture of Dick Cheney. It's in my favorites folder. I'm like, oops, sorry about the dick pic. Didn't mean to send that. It's an icebreaker. Like,
definitely.
Got to keep myself entertained.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, they always my friends accuse me of telling dad jokes, and that, and I go, I find them funny. If no one else laughs at them, I will, because I think
my license plate is a Marine Corps custom plate, disabled vet, dad bod. That's what it says.
Well,
makes me laugh every time.
I will tell you, it was a pleasure talking with you. You're a great guy. I love your sense of humor, and I know that you have more great things on the horizon. Anytime you want to come back on the show, I'd love to have you back on when your book is done, when you get your movie deal.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, for sure. I'll keep you posted, and if anything new pops up, we'll.
After you've done Joe Rogan, come and see me again. So.
Yeah. Joe Rogan, Today Show, Ellen Show. I think those will be some of the goals. Or like host SNL, but I don't know how that would even happen. Like you either have to be a famous movie star, or like I don't know. But it's a fun dream.
I'm going to tell you, I had a comedian on last week, and he was like, "I'm going to do a TED Talk," and she's put it out into the universe. And I'll have to tell you, I know this sounds like woo-woo stuff, but I will tell you that when you do that, you will make things happen. And if you want to be the host of SNL, you put it out there, and I will not be surprised when I see Bryan Seely going. I'll go, Bryan, I know him.
Other stuff in my life has happened that was more crazy. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So maybe one day we'll see you on there.
Definitely. Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's always nice to be asked.
It's my pleasure, and thanks for being such a great guest. And good luck with everything.
Until next time.
Until next time. All right, friends. Well, thank you for joining us. As always, it's a pleasure having you with us and joining us. And you're the reason why I do this, and that because I have fun as well. So until next time, be safe, take care, and wear your mask.